Bismillah. Hello, welcome to another conversation. Hopefully, a very enlightening conversation with a special guest, a very, very special guest, someone that I've been following for maybe the last 6 months from afar. And I'm pleased to share her work with you, and hopefully you can be inspired and educated, and obviously follow up with the great work that our next speaker, our guest, is going to be providing. She is a marriage counselor. She is a licensed coach, and she's also a family therapist, and she also has an organization called Let's Fix It Counseling. Let's Fix It Counseling Uganda, the one and only Sharifah Namusisi. Assalamu alaikum, Sharif. How are you?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am fine. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah,
Mm.
like I said, I've been following your work. I actually came across a couple of your videos on, actually, before getting into that, do you mind giving a quick elevator pitch introducing you and the work that you do and what inspired you to do the work that you're doing before we delve into the topic at hand?
Oh yes, 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 definitely. I have had you mention a few things about me, debunking a few, myths about sexuality, intimacy. And yes, the reason why I started doing that is because no one is talking about it here. And if someone is talking about it, it's unrealistic. The aunties from back in the day are the ones who are advising us. And as you can already tell, they're out of touch with reality. And I figured when people come in here in my practice, you notice that sex is one of the issues that they're dealing with, but they have no one to talk to about this stuff. So I decided to start talking about it. It doesn't mean it's easy. People here haven't made it easy for me to do that, but I'm still trying. So yes, I'm a sex therapist, and when you hear me talking, sometimes you don't hear me front that because it's still actually a taboo here. Some people will still reach out and go like, "Why a Muslim woman? You're a black woman. Have some respect for yourself. You shouldn't be talking about these things online." But yeah, I'm a sex therapist, family therapist. I deal with both individuals and couples. And some of the techniques that I use in my practice are cognitive behavior therapy. It's a technique that believes that the thoughts that you have, negative or positive, are going to affect the feelings that you will feel, and then that will affect your behavior. So that's cognitive behavior therapy. And then there is also attachment therapy. That's another technique that I use. It's a type of psychotherapy that helps people form secure relationships by addressing how childhood experiences impact their relationships. So those are some of the techniques that I use. And yeah, yes, that's what I do.
Great, alhamdulillah. Now, just for the benefit, because I have people following me from all over the world, so some of the things I just want to obviously make it, and obviously I'm assuming that the services that you offer, so I've looked at your website and I'll put a link for people to check out your website, Let's Fix It Counseling, counseling spelled with one L, let's fix it
Right.
counseling.co.ug.
Yes.
So just for the benefit of again people who are maybe not familiar with Uganda or Africa,
All right.
where is Uganda? Can you let us know? And also, can you just confirm whether you do offer services for people outside of Uganda? Because sometimes people feel that if someone is based in one part of the world, it's just for that particular part of the world. And I'm trying to let people know that, like people
All
like
right.
yourself, your services are available for people irrespective of where they reside.
Oh yes, oh yes, definitely. Uganda is in the eastern part of Africa. We've all heard the word the Pearl of Africa. It is indeed the Pearl of Africa. So yes, I'm in the central Kampala, that's that city, and the capital city. And yes, I do offer online therapy. Actually, 40% of my clients are not Ugandans. I do have Kenyans, I have Rwandese, I have people from Nigeria, I have people in the UK. The so many Ugandans in the diaspora reach out to me because they always feel like I can relate. Yeah, so I do offer online sessions as well. So it's not only in person. Yes, thank you.
Alhamdulillah, good. And also because I also have some people that follow me who are sex therapists and counselors who have clients from like Africa, for example, based and they're based in the UK or the US. Do you also
Okay.
provide like because one of the issues that they've asked me or had issues with is understanding that they lack cultural competencies, so they're trying to connect with their clients and things like that. Do you
All right.
offer those type of services for educators and counselors? And if not, is that something you would look to maybe offer? Because there's a lot of, like I said, counselors who are looking for. Because one of the things that I'm trying to do is amplify the voices of experts, therapists, counselors, educators like yourself, who maybe they don't receive the light that they deserve. Because when people tell me, oh, there's no African or Black professionals, I say, no, there is, it's just that you're not aware of them. So
Correct.
sometimes I'm trying to connect the dots. So I'm just wondering, do you also provide like workshops or educational for educators as well who have got African clients who maybe don't understand some of the cultural nuances or complexities that their clients may face?
Oh, yes. So I haven't yet started holding workshops, but I am always invited to different countries, and some people will hold workshops and they will invite me to teach. What I usually do is I hold support groups, and I have different topics for each support group. So, for example, I could hold a support group on sex therapy alone, and I would maybe invite women and men or husbands and wives, and maybe I'll hold a different support group with maybe the topic on grief or marital rape. So that's what I've been doing lately. And like I mentioned earlier, especially in the sex therapy sect, it hasn't been common here. So I can't lie. I've been a bit worried about, getting into workshops like those. I don't know if it would work. People would even be embarrassed to show. They'll be like, people, could you know that I'm going for that workshop? It's about sex. I can't do that publicly. But yes, I do go for the different support groups and I do hold them as well. So whenever I'm invited, I will show up and we'll discuss everything that the clients would want me to discuss.
Fantastic. No, good. I want to make sure that's clear. So again, people who are outside of obviously people in Africa, like you said, neighboring countries to Uganda, but also people outside of the motherland are familiar with your work and they can contact you. And like you said, the fact that you have 40% of your clients are outside of or non-Ugandans, that's actually really good for people to know. So you have that cultural competencies to help people from irrespective of their background. Because that's one of the challenges that I'm facing that sometimes people that I've noticed with black people is that we feel that okay, if it's a black person, they may be just specific or expert in that region, or there's only to
Right,
their people. But when they look at white people, they're universal. That's not the case. We have black people who are educators, professional experts like yourself, who can
right,
resolve issues not only within our own culture or community, but also outside. So that's why I just wanted
right.
to make sure that was clear. Now, you mentioned in the beginning that the topic of sex and sex therapy is quite like a taboo topic in Uganda. I'm wondering, why is it? Can you share why it's a taboo topic?
Well, I think society has kind of written that in stone that sex is supposed to be a shameful act. Usually, when I have clients come in here, the first question I ask them is, what were your first lessons about sex growing up? And where did you get these lessons from? And the biggest percentage of people will tell you that I actually held a quiz on Instagram, and the answers were crazy. They were told sex is a sin, sex is evil, sex is shameful. If you have sex, you will go through hell. So these are the first lessons we got about sex growing up. I remember my mom, the only sex education I got from her was, Sharifah, the day you're going to have sex is the day you're going to get HIV, and then you will die. So that was the lesson. That was it. So you can imagine there's so many people who are stuck in their past because of the lessons that they got. And then surprisingly, after you finish your university, your parents are asking you, so when are you bringing your husband? And you're wondering, okay, bring my husband, and what are we going to do exactly? You know? And I've got so many people who cannot bring themselves to, sorry, sorry about that. Yeah. Sorry. So I've got so many people who will tell you that I can't bring myself to actually get that out of my head. And it's very hard for their partners to understand it. And I'm always telling them the first lessons that you got can actually impact you because these are the limiting beliefs that people are struggling with. So the biggest problem why it is actually a taboo is because society has deemed it so. Our parents, people before us. You're not allowed to talk about sex publicly because it's shameful, and you're a woman. You shouldn't be talking about these things. So to date, it is not something you can freely talk about without consequences.
Wow. And is the
Yeah.
messaging that women or girls receive, is it the same as the messaging that men and boys receive when they're young about sex?
Well, Well, I mentioned earlier that our aunties, when they are teaching us about sex in Uganda, so usually when the girl is getting married, you will have a day or a night or even a few days before the wedding with your auntie, and the auntie is from the paternal side. She's usually your dad's sister, and she will teach you how to please a man. Okay, that is how it usually goes. So you have to prepare for him hot water with a hot towel. You have to clean him after. They teach you all of these things. And then they'll teach you about pulling your labia, stuff like that. So everything that they are training us to do is to please the man. Okay. And they're not teaching you that, hey, this is supposed to be two-way. Okay. You're also supposed to get pleasure from this. So you will find that most people find sex burdensome. It's like a chore. I'm not enjoying it because all I was taught was do A, B, C, D for your man. So they're not telling men what to do. No, no, no. Men are actually expecting us to come ready. That is how it goes in our society. So we are trying to change that. The modern therapists lately are trying to change that. We are trying to empower the woman to also understand that no, you are allowed to actually demand for pleasure as well. That's how it works. So yes, it's how it's taught back from here. You only please the man.
Oh. And are attitudes changing from the men towards like the work that you're doing in terms of empowering women and teaching them that, like you said, they can demand pleasure? Are men embracing your message, or is there some pushback?
Well, there are some pushbacks, and I've noticed the pushbacks are mostly coming from the Islamic point of view, not from the individuals themselves, because the Muslims are making it seem like what I'm doing as a Muslim woman is unacceptable. Not all of them, some of them have, some men are actually embracing it. There are people I have met who will even ask me point blank, "Hi, Sharifah, can you tell me why my wife won't have sex with me?" And you can tell they actually want to learn. They're eager. And I will talk to them about libido. Why would your wife's libido be low? It could be a psychological issue or a physical issue. And you can already tell they didn't even know that. You know, they were always telling their woman, "You have to go back to your aunt. I can't believe you've not slept with me for over 2 months." And they've not taken into account that the woman could be struggling psychologically or even physically. So some are picking up on it. Some are happy we are doing it because as a woman, I'm in a better position to tell a man what I want, right? So if a man is listening, then that's a good thing. The same way a man is in a better position to tell me what a man would want, right? And yes, some men are picking up on it. Some men like the idea that we are teaching these things because they help them understand their women better. But some men feel like, no, we call it okono, you are spoiling our wives. Yeah, you're conditioning them to now have expectations that they didn't have earlier. So for them, mostly it's more of a control issue. So I don't really pay attention to them.
Yeah, you said well, that's leading me on to what I wanted to talk to you about like you said, a lot of the pushback is from people using the religion or from like Islamic perspective. And I loved
Right.
and I did repost your video. You did a great video, and I will put a link about the issue of marital rape and how men weaponize some prophetic traditions and have this idea that a woman cannot say no in the bedroom. Do you mind just summarizing what that video was about and some of the issues that people have in terms of misunderstanding of marital rape, if you don't mind?
Yes, that was not the only video I was getting. I remember someone reached out and told me you were really angry in this video. And I said, yes, I was. Because I think I had gotten like six similar stories before I actually spoke to the lady. She's the only person who actually accepted me to share her story. I asked all the first ladies, and they're like, "No, no, 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 please don't share it. Don't share it. It's shameful. I'm a woman. I'm supposed to give in to my husband." And I said, "That's not how it works." And she's like, "But I'm Muslim." And then there is a hadith that they always quote, that the angels will curse you until morning if you don't give in to your husband's demands. And I'm always telling them, you do realize that we need to debunk that once and for all. You know, these interpretations of religious texts sometimes are totally distorted. There is no way that Islam would allow a husband to oppress the wife sexually, to abuse the wife sexually, when the foundation of Islam is peace, tranquility, and affection. So as you can already tell, those two things are not going hand in hand. So I get so many of those. And the reason women cannot even come out and talk about it is because they are married to these men. So they always feel like, but he's my husband, he paid my dowry. So if he wants to have sex with me on my period, I can't say no. If he wants to have sex with me and I'm stressed and tired, I cannot say no. So a few of us are coming out and we are telling them, oh, you are allowed to say no, even if you are just tired. Okay, you have a right to say no because that is not Islam. Islam is not oppressive. Okay, and I'm always, bringing to light the fact that you need to be very careful who you're married to, because a kind partner, a considerate partner, would even be worried for you. Like, you're tired, you're having a bad day, you're stressed this week. What can I do? How can I help? Not to rip you, disguising that as, no, 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 you're my wife, I'm your husband, we're supposed to do it. So that is happening a lot. A lot. And it's not only the Muslims, it's the Christians. They also have their own, verses that people skew to, fit it into what they want to do. So it's happening a lot. Marital rape is real, and we are not making enough noise about it.
And what has been the response from like the religious leaders, like the sheikhs, the scholars, in regard to this topic? Are they not trying to combat it? That marital rape is completely prohibited. It's haram. Like you said, Islam doesn't allow anyone to oppress anyone. So how can the husband force himself on his wife? Like it's just common sense. It should be common sense. So I'm just wondering, are the religious leaders speaking about it in like the Friday sermons or in lectures? Are they not trying to combat this?
Oh my God, Habib, you should come here. Talk about sex in the Friday khutbah? Are you serious? No way. No way. How dare you, as a sheikh, stand up, and start talking about sex in front of all these people? Even if they tried to talk about these things, they will, use a language that's not so clear, you know? And it's very unfortunate. Some of our leaders, not all of them, we have some really good ones, okay? But some of them are always using religion to give men a certain power over their women, because these these hadiths that they distort also support them, right? So they use religion only when it suits them. So they will play around with that hadith, but because we are not educated about these things, we will believe them. He's your husband. How can you say no to your husband? And then they'll bring in a hadith and, something that unrelated. The Prophet ﷺ said that if there was anyone he could command to kneel down, to bow down for their husbands, it would be the wife. And then as a woman, you're like, oh my goodness, I cannot say no. But as you can already tell, the problem is because we are not educated on our deen. Yeah. So I'm always telling the ladies, go seek knowledge. Go understand your religion. Okay. Go understand your religion, because after you do, you will stop accepting certain kinds of treatment. Okay. And I feel like that is where we need to start. But no, a few of them will talk about marriage. Some scholars here will teach women about their rights in marriage and the husbands in marriage. But sex, this is something we don't talk about openly or publicly. Some of them have actually reached out to me and told me, since you're a marriage counselor, you should keep these lessons in your office. Do not come online and talk about these things like that. It's embarrassing for a Muslim Black woman.
It's very bad. I mean, what really irritates me with this is that, like you said, a number of those religious leaders, scholars, preachers, they
Yeah.
are misrepresenting the religion and they're using certain texts to support them wanting to subjugate and control women. And this
Right,
whole idea that you can't speak about sex when it's clearly mentioned several times in the Quran, it's clearly mentioned in the Hadith, but they will
right,
only use the verses or the texts that support. And a lot of those Hadiths are unreliable or fabricated about women having to like submit to their husbands and things like that, or they twist it. And again, I just think that when you look at the Quran, because if you notice a number of them, they will use a lot of these hadiths which are either unreliable or they're problematic, shall we say. But in the
Right.
Quran, it's very clear the way Allah speaks about relationships, that it should be like you referred to, based on love and compassion and tranquility.
Compassion. Right.
Allah describes intimate relationship like the man is like a garment for the woman, and likewise, the woman is like a garment for the man in relation to the intimate act. So if you look at the language of the Quran, it's very clear, it's complementary, and it should be. And
Right.
if you're talking about marriage should be a place of tranquility and comfort, how can you then
Mhm.
force yourself on your wife? How can you then oppress it? It's obvious. It's like it's common sense, and that's why I was always baffled because I've seen this in other communities as well, and I'm always baffled by some of these religious figures because they know what they're saying is clearly contradicting the Quran.
Right.
They know what they're
They
saying.
know.
So that's why for me, I'm just thinking, how can you? There's one thing to oppress people, which is wrong, but then to oppress people and to do it in the name of gods, like the name of religion, it's even worse. That's
I
why
know.
I've never understood the mentality because again, if you know you're doing something that's wrong, it's wrong, fair enough. But then to use the religion and then to take advantage to exploit people, yeah, it's just yeah, it's really sad, and that's why I can like the work that you're doing. I commend you, and I pray to Allah to give you the strength to persevere because I can imagine there'll be a lot of pushback and a lot of people
Right.
that will be saying a lot of things to you, but your work is definitely needed because you're going to be and you are inspiring many people and saving many marriages and educated a number of men and women alike because a lot of men are unaware. So that's why
True.
it's important that you're educated and informing, like what you mentioned about when the man was complaining that his wife doesn't want to have intimacy with him, and he was aware of the different reasons that she might not want to have intimacy. So it's important that as a woman as well, you are educating men and women as well, because I think, like I said, men need it just as much as women. Now, coming to
Right.
you, you mentioned a couple of the techniques or the approaches you provide, CBT, so cognitive behavior therapy. So how would that work in a sense? Because if you could just educate us a bit more in terms of, is that in relation to limiting beliefs? Is that in relation to low libido? How does that work, this CBT?
Okay, so using cognitive behavioral therapy as a model, it helps us investigate the logic behind certain beliefs and behaviors, right? And when you can identify the unhelpful triggers or the unhelpful thinking styles that you have, we can help unlearn them, right? So that helps me a lot because when we go back to how were things done back in the day, and why are you treating your wife the way you're treating her, or why are you treating your husband the way you're treating them? And for example, your partner is still, your client is telling you that, hey, look, this is how my mom did things. Okay, this is how my dad did A, B, C, D. You can already tell that that's a limiting belief right there. He is only loving the wife the way he saw dad love the wife, the mom, and he's expecting the wife to show up in the way that his mother showed up for them. So you see, now this is where we start to identify and then start to unlearn and then relearn. So that is what CBT usually does. So the thoughts are going to create feelings, feelings are going to create behavior, and then the behavior will reinforce the thoughts. So let's talk about those negative thoughts. That's what we do here. And then when we talk about them, we can identify well, you can see that this is 2024. Things cannot work the way they worked in 1990, right? That's just realistic. And the woman right there in front of you is not your mother. So you cannot really expect her to show up for you, though you're your mother. I was trying to show parents did, right? And I was giving an example of a couple that would show up, and the husband probably expects the wife to show up the way his mother did. And he expects to, be a husband in the same way that the dad did, right? And we have to now identify that as a limiting belief or an unhelpful way of thinking that we need to talk about because it is out of touch with reality. It cannot be realistic. There is no way you can expect your wife to show up for you the same way your mother did for your dad. So usually you will have to now reframe their thinking, right? Reframe their perspective and make them understand that the way your father and mother as marriage worked cannot be the same way your marriage is going to work. So if you can identify those negative thoughts and negative thinking styles and the limiting beliefs, you can train the couple to, you know, do better. Relearn. I have a firm in my office where I'm always, ticking up one by one, asking the clients about their different cognitive biases to see which ones are affecting their relationships. We do have magnification, where someone will only exaggerate certain aspects of themselves. You will ignore everything else, but then pick out something so small and then magnify it and make it seem like everything else doesn't matter. Relationships can never be perfect. All men are the same, the overgeneralization. So we have so many of those, and I'm always taking my clients through them to see how they're affecting their marriages. And then we have the black and white thinking. You know that one? Where it's either A or B. There is no middle ground. So we do, yeah. So we do have a lot of those, and all of those fall under the cognitive behavioral therapy. Yes.
So also want to talk about the different services that you offer. So I've been looking at your website, and again, for the benefit of those, please check out Sharifah's website, letsfixitcounselling.co.ug. And I can see that you offer different services. You mentioned the CBT, individual counseling, family counseling, couples counseling, community counseling, um, and also premarital counseling. Wanted to touch on premarital counseling. For someone who is, thinking about getting married, um, when is the best time would you recommend someone seek your services? Is it
Before you
when they're
get
just about to get, is that just when they're about to get married, like 2 weeks before? Is it when they're thinking about a spouse? I'm just thinking when is the best time you'd advise someone to seek counseling and therapy?
Honestly, I wouldn't want to like have a specific number, but please, before you get married, 6 months, a year, you're dating, into a year dating, please decide, decide to seek therapy before you tie the knot. I was once asked that if there is anything we could do to change the marriage dynamics in Uganda, what would I advise? And I said, here in Uganda, the Christians usually have premarital therapy 6 months or 8 months before the wedding. And if one of you, the couple, misses, you go back to zero. That's what I've heard. Imagine they do that. You'll have about 6, 7, 8 sessions, if I'm right, before you get married. And we don't have that in Islam. The Muslims don't have that here back home. So if there was anything that we could do, it would be very, very nice for people to understand each other before we get married, because marriage is not a day, but we pay so much attention on the wedding and then we don't prepare for the marriage. We get married for all the wrong reasons. So for premarital therapy, I would really advise people to get in there before they even think about getting married. Because with that, you can discuss everything. You can discuss intimacy. What are expectations? You can discuss polygamy. What are expectations? You can discuss finances. What are expectations? We can discuss date, chores. We can discuss everything so that I get into this marriage well aware of what I'm getting myself into. So yes, premarital therapy is very important.
Thank you. And what you mentioned, polygamy, is that something that's widely practiced in Uganda? And if so, what are some of the common challenges that people have, both men and women alike?
If we had $1 for every time a man got a second, third, or fourth wife, would be very wealthy.
Really? Okay.
Yes, it is wild. Oh my God, wildly practiced, and for all the wrong reasons. And this is something I'm always also now like making noise about, because a man are marrying 2, 3 wives because he wants a light-skinned woman, and then he likes a black one, and then he would like to have, one who is, well shaped with a nicer body. They're marrying for all the wrong reasons, you know. And then it is something now they're also using religion to back that up. They will tell you, no, 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 no. Islam allowed us. Islam allowed us. And I'm always telling them, can you read that verse? The whole verse in its entirety. Do not stop at marry 1, 2, 3, or 4. Read the entire verse. Because what the verse says at the end of it is, if you fear that you will not be just, then marry one. No, no, no. They don't want to go there. They don't want to go there. So most of our sisters are being oppressed, using Islam. Polygamy could be something nice if they were practicing it the right way. It could be okay. It could be a nice thing, but they're not. And that is why people don't like it. Most women don't like it because they're really, really oppressed. woman A is treated, in a different lifestyle, lavish, and then woman B is mistreated. They don't even want to hear anything about her. And then they are bringing on woman three. Okay, you will hear a woman telling you, I've been sexually stabbed for about 2 years now. And the same husband is marrying a third wife. And you're wondering, what are we doing? So Islam again is being misused in that polygamy sect.
And are scholars speaking out against this, like about the mistreatment of polygamy and how people, like you mentioned, if you're going to do it, you have to be just and honest and transparent. Are scholars speaking out against this in terms of the mistreatment of polygamy and how women are being taken advantage of and oppressed?
Unfortunately, most of the education that we get here about polygamy or intimacy or marriage seems to favor the men more than the woman. And that is some of the Islamic scholars. You will find a few people, hopefully after this Zoom, I'll share a few links with you on the people who are talking about it. You will notice that they're even making it seem like a trend. They're actually forcing the woman to accept it. So it's more like, the religion accepted it.
Sorry.
Sorry. Someone was trying to call me. So it went off. Can you hear me? I'm
I
just
can hear you.
letting
I'm just that part. Yeah, that's fine.
and I'm just trying to let them know that I'm in an online meeting, so they shouldn't call me. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. I hope I sent it to the right number. Yes. So as I was saying, when these some of our religious leaders are preaching polygamy, they almost make it seem like, hey, woman, you should be accepting this. You really kind of have no choice in the matter because religion accepts it. And they don't teach it in the right way. Like I said, they use religion to, suit them. Yeah, that's why it always seems like Islam favors men more, which is not true. And I'm always telling the ladies, go read up on Islam. You'll find out that women in Islam have as many rights as the men do. So for the few Islamic leaders who are talking about maybe polygamy and teaching us what's right. If I could say on a scale of 1 to 10, we could have maybe 3 out of 10 who are really teaching, from the right context of Islam about how polygamy should be and how it shouldn't be.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I'm just trying to understand the mindset. Why do you think that they're not teaching polygamy how it should be in terms of, like you said, women have just as much rights as men? Is it because they're benefiting from it, or they're just unaware? Is that because that's how it was practiced before, so they're just thinking that's just how it should be?
Right. And I have a feeling, okay, my opinion is we kind of mix culture and Islam. That is our biggest problem. And if we could understand Islam for what it really is and put culture aside, I think people would be practicing Islam in the right way. But then we do mix culture because even before we understood that polygamy is something in Islam, our fathers had 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 wives from back in the day. And most of the husbands that we have today are still learning from that. So that is why it's very imperative that we take time to read up on polygamy in Islam. What does Islam say? Let us do the job on our own because no one is going to come and teach us. When they do teach us, they will teach us what they want us to know. They've kind of taken over that sect of, what, since they're listening and they're not taking the time to learn, well, we could as well just feed them whatever we want them to learn. But that's not to say that they're all doing it. There are some who are actually doing it right, and there are some who aren't. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I found that myself. So I'm from Nigeria, Southwest Nigeria in particular, and polygamy is it's culturally practiced, it's common, and a lot of the Muslims that practice it because it's culturally practiced, even if it's done in the wrong way, people will use the religion to justify it and make it out like women just have to accept it and they can't refuse or can't be upset with it. But when you actually read the religion, there are many examples in our history of women did not accept it, and the Prophet also didn't force that upon women. So yeah, I do agree with you that unfortunately a lot of people they conflate culture with religion, and a lot of people, even those who have studied, aren't able to differentiate between is this a cultural understanding or is this actually what the religions say? So that's why I definitely agree with you, like you said, about the importance of education is extremely important. Now, with the work
Correct.
that you're doing and your YouTube, is that mainly geared towards women or is it men and women? I'm just wondering because I think men need this education just as much as the women.
Actually, I feel like women have got a lot of information. We have so much information from the day we are born. It's kind of like ingrained in us to do this for your man. Even when you don't, wake up and wash your plates, the comments that your parents would make would be like, "What kind of wife will you be?" And you're only 12 years old. So I feel like from back in the day, we are taught what we should be doing for our husbands. But the kind of information I'm putting out there is mostly for couples. And on my YouTube channel, it's mostly for couples. And when I am, freely posting on my social media, I am also now trying to empower the girl child because I have understood that society has kind of conditioned us to normalize abuse. And that is my why. Whenever I'm asked, what is your why? Why did you start the YouTube channels? Why did you start, these videos and everything? And I said, look, I noticed that we have been taught that abuse is normal. And I'm kind of going to use my voice for as long as I can to teach women that it is not normal. So yes, as much as I focus a lot on women, I also have content for couples because that is my niche. But while I do that, I'm taking the girl child with me.
Oh, that's great to hear. And just for the benefit of, again, anyone watching and listening, can you define what is abuse? Is abuse just physical abuse, or can it also be emotional abuse? Because I think some men, when they think about abuse, they just think it has to be physical and just with marks, and there's no such thing as emotional abuse. Can you clarify that? That's the case?
Actually, yes. You will find cases here at home where a woman will want to leave a marriage and you will support her. You're like, hey, you can leave. And she will tell you that, when I spoke to my mom, the first question she asked me was, but he didn't beat you. What do you mean he's abusing you? And then maybe the daughter will come up with all these scenarios of, last time he called me ABCD, he calls me names, he fat shames me, he gaslights me, he's always, rude to me, he insults me in public, he, he uses religion to rape me. And the mother is like, but that's your duty. What do you mean? That's your duty as a wife. And then they'll use statements like, words don't break bonds. Those are just words. So emotional abuse is downplayed, yet it has a negative impact on how someone actually processes things. So, no, abuse is not physical. I know we have been led to believe that. And surprisingly, Habib, even when there is physical abuse, some parents won't let their children leave. They'll tell them that's marriage. Marriage has challenges. I endured all of that. This is like the case back home. So physical abuse is not something that so many parents will frown upon because they've gone through it and they stayed for their kids and they survived. They're training their kids to do the same. And those are the songs we are now coming to sing upon. And we're like, oh, no, 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 no. Just because my mom accepted it doesn't mean I have to accept it. It ends with me. So I know many people believe that physical abuse is the only kind of abuse we know. If he doesn't slap you, that's not abuse. And I'm always telling them, even if he just, throws your phone, even if it's just banging walls and banging tables, that is abuse. Do not normalize it. So abuse is physical, it is sexual, it is emotional, it is financial. So it is economic. You need to learn all of these so that you can pick up on them.
Um, Touching on the limiting beliefs as well, I just want to touch on that before we wrap up. Um,
Okay.
do men also have limiting beliefs, or is it just women? Can you clarify that? And what are some of the limiting beliefs if men have that they need to debunk, or they need to like your help with in relation to relationships?
Okay, no, limiting beliefs are for everyone. And I know most of the time we focus on the women, but men too have limiting beliefs. And I think the first thing that popped into my mind when you asked was the toxic masculinity. You know, that's the like one of the things that I struggle with here. And I remember there's somebody who came for me in my comment section while I was talking about boys. I think the video was about do not tell your boys to man up. Stop telling boys to man up. Let them express their emotions. Let them feel their emotions. Let them cry. Let them be angry. Let them express it. And I remember someone came and said, you are crippling our boys. Our boys are supposed to be men. Okay. We were taught that and we survived, and you need to teach them too. And I'm thinking, are boys not human beings? That is, in my opinion, that is the number one limiting beliefs that men are struggling with. Society has shaped what a man should be. How a man, for you to be termed masculine, for you to be termed a man, you must not show emotion. You must suppress them. You must be tough. You must be mean. You shouldn't, why are you crying? Why are you sad? So that is the number one limiting belief that I'm still struggling with. And I'm always telling parents, listen, your son, the one you're ignoring right now as he cries, is the same husband you're dealing with right now. You're complaining to me that my husband is emotionally unavailable. And I'm like, but you're doing the same thing to your son. You're teaching them to be emotionally unavailable. So that is the number one limiting belief. And I'm always telling men that healthy masculinity is kind, it is leading with compassion, it is not aggressive, it is not controlling, it is not, unhealthily dominating. It is leading with love, leading with compassion. It is listening. It is kind. It is affectionate. And I'm always telling them, can you imagine a man like that? Who wouldn't want a man like that? Now, that is the masculinity that we want. A man who can listen, who has emotional maturity. They can emotionally regulate. They can understand your emotions. So that is it. That is it for me, that I'm always feeling like, look, we need to teach more men that being masculine doesn't mean you have to be hardcore and mean and emotionally unavailable, always feeling like that stuff is for girls. No, we are all human beings. We all feel the same emotions at the end of the day.
Oh, great. No, lovely. Very well said. And with prior to getting married, so like if people are dating or like in a relationship and what have you. So I saw a couple of videos you spoke about like HIV and STIs. Is that also been spoken about, and how the importance of sexual health and even obviously getting tested before marriage? Is that something that happens, or is it seen as like the assumption, especially amongst Muslims, is that people are not having any intimate relations, so therefore they won't um have any tests, when in reality we know that people are having relations prior to marriage. So I'm just wondering, is that a topic that is spoken about prior to marriage? It's
If,
not?
if, if, no, it's not. It's not. If you get lucky and go for premarital therapy, and maybe your therapist brings it up, then you'll be lucky. You'll go for those tests. But many people don't even know that they have to test for sickle cell. Many people don't even know that they have to test. I have actually, that's, you read my mind. I have that on the list of videos I'm supposed to make next week, because you get so many people here who are struggling with that. And I'm telling them there's like a whole list of things you must test for, but we are not talking about it. And yes, I am normalizing conversations around STD and HIV and STIs, because I have so many of my followers who are facing the stigma. There's a whole stigma around HIV. If you're HIV positive, the society does not receive you really well. Everyone thinks that you got HIV from sin. They don't know that some people actually got HIV from marriage. Their partner cheated and brought the HIV. Their wives cheated. Their husbands cheated. So I am trying to normalize that conversation. One, to let the people who are living with HIV know that, hey, look, you're not alone. Okay, we get it. We understand, and you don't have to die in silence. And I'm also now trying to educate the people on the other side that, hey, look, HIV is actually real. People are actually struggling, and you need to take care of yourself. If you don't trust your partner, no, it means you have to take care of your health. So yes, I'm normalizing those conversations, because many clients come up with those issues. I don't know if you see the stories I keep posting.
Yes, I do. Yeah,
Is that what you
I'm
do?
fine. Yes. No, it's
Yeah.
very good work. It's very good and very good for highlighting that. Another thing I'd like to say just before we wrap up is I think one of your recent videos you spoke about, I think I'm trying to find about marriage, or like the idea of marriage is not what defines you. Or I think you said something about like divorce is not failure. Can you touch on that? Because I do notice that a number of women define themselves as either being a mother or a wife. And whilst that is, it's a blessing to be a wife and it's a blessing to be a mother, well, provided that you're in a healthy relationship. Sometimes if a woman is not married or she's like divorced, I've noticed some women might feel as if that like they're less than or they're less valuable in society or even for themselves. Can you um touch on that? Because also I'm just wondering if is that also play into like a limiting belief that how a number of women maybe or society defines women either you're a mother or you're a wife, and if you're not either of those, then you're somehow seen as a failure, which I don't agree with, but I think that's something that a number of unfortunately people buy into. Can you talk about that and how to debunk that for women who may be struggling?
Oh, now you're hitting the right points. Now that's a limiting belief, and that is what the women are suffering with the most. The same when men struggle with the toxic masculinity, women are struggling to understand that while marriages can be a beautiful thing, it doesn't have to be an end all be all. We have seen people die in marriages, and I'm always telling them, I've never seen anyone die because they were single. I've never seen anyone die because they got married late, but I have seen people die in bad marriages. And I'm also, it's for people, they always feel like, but Sharifa, you're contradicting yourself. You're a marriage counselor, and then you're the same person who will come on here and tell us, hey, take your time. Marriage is not the end all be all. And I stand by it. I stand by it. I'm a marriage counselor, but I will also be honest enough and realistic enough to tell you, look, if that partner is not healthy for you, if that partner is not healthy for you, do not get married. If he's abusive, if she is abusive, do not get married. Okay. The people want you to accept their idea of marriage. You know, you just have to be married. No, you do not just have to be married. And it's not about love alone. Make sure you're respected. Make sure you're understood. Make sure you're valued. Make sure you're supported. Okay. It's okay to not be a mother at 30. It's really, really okay. And I keep using myself as an example. I tell them, look, I'm not here getting awards. I have 5 children. I don't have an accolade, you know? Yeah, while having children is beautiful and all, take your time because the most important decision you're ever going to make is the kind of person you're going to parent with, the kind of person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So those are very, very important things. Marriage is beautiful, but it will only be beautiful if you are doing the work and your partner is also doing the work. Yeah.
Agreed. So someone who is, so I'm assuming that the work that you offer, like the counseling services, is also for single women, divorced women, women who are not in relationships or don't, because they may have these limiting beliefs, like you said. So just want to make that clear. So even though you are a marriage counselor, you do also offer services for people who are not married or not even thinking about getting married or being in a relationship because they may have some of these. They need counseling as well. So I just wanted to make that clear because, yeah, I found the videos that you posted really useful, and I just wanted to make that clear for people that although yes, Sharifah is a qualified marriage counselor and therapist and sex therapist and family therapist, she also does provide work for people who are single and married and otherwise. So yeah, that's been absolutely amazing. It's been an absolute pleasure. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but obviously we're going to resolve that and well, this is recorded, so they don't know when we started. But is there any last? Have you got any upcoming? I don't know, like workshops or events you want to promote for people to be? Obviously, I'm gonna put your details of your website and your social media handles. But have you any other maybe workshops or speaking engagements of where how people should contact you? Any lasting thoughts you want to leave us on?
Actually, no, my last event for this year, I even told myself this year I'm done with events. It was yesterday. It was beautiful. It was about motherhood. It was the motherhood square. So we're also debunking myths about motherhood yesterday. It was the beautiful one. So that was my last one this year. Anyway, let me not say never. Someone might give me a good offer and I apply.
Yes, that's true.
But yeah, no, I don't have any upcoming right now. And I wanted to thank you, Habib. Really, I really wanted to thank you. I always wanted to ask you, I know this is about you hosting me, but how do you do it? Because the reason I got your books, see that? Can you see? It
Yeah,
looks blurry.
I can see
Yeah.
it
So the
now.
reason I got your books is because I want to get back into, teaching, the sex education. I want to get back into it. I don't know if you've noticed, I've not been teaching about it lately because I don't have thick skin yet. I just came on social media in 2020. So when they troll me one day and another, I bang gas and I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be doing it. But when I came onto your channel, I'm like, how is he doing it? People will troll you, they will say all these negative things about you, and you'll be back again tomorrow,
Yeah.
standing on business. How do you do it? I want to learn to, show up because it's the right thing to do and it's what I want to do. And I know it's benefiting a lot of people who are silenced by society. And I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. So I just want you to kind of, empower me so I
Yeah.
can apply this knowledge.
I think you answered my question, what you said, because I focus on those that it's benefiting. So yes, there may be a number of people who, and a lot of people, again, a lot of people are just unaware. A lot of people are ignorant. It comes down to like what you were speaking about, their limiting beliefs that this is the inversion or interpretation of Islam with their culture that they know. So anything that
Yeah.
you're saying is contrary to that. They feel like they're protecting their culture, their interpretation of masculinity, femininity, or Islam. So that's why I don't really begrudge them because a lot of them are ignorant. I concentrate, I think about those people that are benefiting, and many of those people that are benefiting are silent. So I don't necessarily need a lot of people to applaud me or say I love your work, but I know that people will be watching from afar, and they don't necessarily need to, like I said, tell me that. So I'll concentrate on that. I always think about those people, not those who are trolling and people that troll. Sometimes maybe because I'm quite thick-skinned, being Nigerian, I just like to come back. I've got a sharp tongue, so sometimes in a way to me. Sometimes I don't mind people coming and if my only issue if someone was criticizing something that I said was factually incorrect, like I was misrepresenting the religion or
Okay.
something like that, then I'll be wary. I'll be more worried. Sorry, but if someone doesn't like my presentation style or what I'm delivering, then it's not for you. It's fine. It's not for everyone. So I'm not trying to convert everyone, so to speak, or but I know that there are a number of people who need this information, and there are a number of people like voices like yourself who are because one of the things I get frustrated with is when people say things like, there aren't black people, Africans, or women that are doing this type of work. And again, it's really just a case of there are, but it's just that you maybe don't know of them. So then for me, I look at it like it's my duty to amplify these voices because rather than just speaking about the people that we know, like the great work that they do, like whether it's Gary Chapman and the Five Love Languages and Esther
Right.
Perel and all of these great figures, but we've also got people within our community, both Muslim and black as well in particular, because I think the contributions of black Muslim women in particular are silenced. So you have white people that everyone accepts. Then amongst the Muslims, if you look a certain way, if you're light skinned, if you're Arab, then you're seen as an authority. Then you're seen as intellectually something that, okay, we can learn from. And then if you're black, it's like you're bottom of the barrel. So I know that even within our community, even amongst us as black people. So rather than complain about it, I think, okay, let me try and amplify those voices so you can see other examples and so many people that you can, and people be inspired by each other. So I look at it like we're not competing with one another. We're just learning from each other. And again, it's just to kind of normalize our expertise because, like I said, there are many people who are suffering in silence. So they need to know that because, and it's easier, obviously, as a man. Obviously, if I was a woman, it would definitely be more difficult. And that's why I'll try and amplify or the voice of different women in particular, because then you can hopefully get encouragement and be inspired by other women who are doing similar work because I can't imagine the abuse that women receive because it's not going to be the same as a man because women will receive abuse from women and from men, unfortunately. Whereas with men, as a man, it's not as much as no way it's probably as much as what you get. And again, I will fire back. So that's really yes, that's maybe like my wines. I look as part of a legacy. So, but yeah, just keep doing the work that you're doing, just to know that your work is appreciated, and just try
Thank
and
you.
ignore the naysayers because at the end of the day, if what you're doing is beneficial and it's for the sake of Allah, Allah will reward you. And when I reflect and read the Quran, a lot of the people that Allah praised, they were maligned in society. And I'll just leave it at like the Surah Al-Tahrim. I did a a course not so long ago, and I was explaining that if you look at the 66 chapters of the Quran, the two examples of that Allah gave as examples, not only for women, but for men and women, for the believers,
Mm.
was a single mother and no, a childless woman, sorry, and an unmarried woman in Maryam and Asiya. If you just
Wow.
reflect, Asiya was in an abusive relationship to Fir'aun, who was a tyrant,
Yeah.
who was oppressing her. But
Yeah.
Allah praised her because she stuck firm to her faith. So it's not normalizing abuse. It's not. So some people can look at that story and think, oh, it's saying that that's no, it's not saying that. It's saying that despite what she was going through, she still had firm belief in Allah because the most important relationship that one should have is obviously with themselves and then with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is with God. It's not with your husband. People
Correct.
kind of look at that the most important relationship a woman should have is with her husband. No, it's not the case. So that's an example that Allah gave that in society wise, everyone would look at her like you're married to the most richest, powerful man in the world, but he was abusing her. So Allah's using that
Right.
as an example that is her faith that you should learn from. And then also what she said in the verse, she said, um, Allah build for me a house for you near you in paradise and save me from Fir'aun and save me from his actions. And if you read the
Wow.
tafsir of the verse, when she says, save me from his actions, Ibn Abbas, who was a companion of the Prophet, he said that when she said, save me from his actions, she meant save me from having sexual intercourse with me because he was
Oh,
forcing himself
wow.
upon her. That's what it means. So when she says save me from Fir'aun and his actions, it means save me from having intimate relations with me because he was forcing himself upon her. He was abusing her. So that's the first
Oh,
example. The
I
second
didn't
example,
know.
yeah, a lot of people don't know that, unfortunately. A lot of people,
Oh,
second example, we look at Maryam, the mother of Jesus, how Allah referred to it as Maryam, the daughter of Imran. And he praised her not because she was the mother of Jesus, but because she preserved her chastity. It wasn't because she was a virgin, because she preserved her chastity. So that's also an example that you have a woman who was not married. We know obviously she
I'm
had
married. Yeah.
unmarried, and he
Mm.
didn't praise her because she was raising her child who became a prophet. He was praised her because she guarded her chastity and she was devout. She was faithful. She was
Right.
a worshipper of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in her society, remember the story that she was accused of adultery. So even though she was a righteous woman, people still, because when they saw that she was pregnant, she had a child, they was saying bad things about her. So this can, another example that your society might malign you and think that you're this way and that inclined, but no one knows your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're supposed to be inspired and learn from these stories, but unfortunately, these stories are not really told. So again, like I said, even within our community, the people that are doing the best things, sometimes they may not be appreciated by their community, it might be later on generations. So that's why for me, it's like, okay,
Mm.
to try and do the work that I can. And then with me, I prefer writing books and then hopefully people can learn from books because I don't really like public speaking. So that's, yeah.
Welcome to my world. Ugh.
Yeah, but keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, you're inspiring and you're helping so many people. Like it, so there's going to be many mini Sharifahs, inshallah, in the next 5 to 10 years, going to learn from you, going
Inshallah.
to continue your legacy. So just please continue doing what you're doing. If you've got any um ideas of maybe writing the book, you need some help, I don't mind to assist with that because I think it's important that people not only benefit from your YouTube videos, but even maybe like the written words of people outside of Uganda, outside of Africa can benefit and learn from the great work that you're doing.
Oh, I'm going to come and collect because I'm actually writing. So I'll collect.
No, good. Yeah,
I'm
good.
going to reach
Yeah,
out to it.
yeah, no, definitely. We'll be in touch. And yeah, so like I said, I'm really appreciative of the work that you're doing. May Allah continue to guide you and bless you,
Allah,
not only
I
this
need
world, but also
to.
in the hereafter. But yeah, so the
Allah.
absolute pleasure. I'm going to, like I said, put all your links below of
Okay.
your website and things like that. And again, please, for those of you listening, please follow Sharifah. Again, check out her YouTube page, check out her website, and obviously her Instagram. And again, obviously, if you need counseling services, therapy services, please contact her and check out her organization. Let's Fix It Counseling. Let's Fix It Counseling. And it's been an absolute pleasure, Sharifah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.